In this era of belt-tightening, it's kind of refreshing to take a look at people whose happiest pastime is to give money away. Such a man is 77-year-old Eli Broad, a self-made billionaire art collector, and for the past 10 years, one of the most consistently generous philanthropists in America, supporting education reform, medical research, and the arts, who also wants to transform that sprawling monster of a city, Los Angeles, into a cultural capital. Eli Broad thinks big, but his critics say he can act very small, that he may give billions away, but he tries to micromanage almost every dollar he gives. Eli Broad doesn't really care what they say. All he wants to do is die poor. Well, relatively poor.
The story will continue in a moment.
I believe in two things. One, Andrew Carnegie said, "He who dies with wealth dies in shame." And someone said, "He who gives while he lives also knows where it goes."
There's no one quite so civic-minded in America. Eli Broad and his wife Edie have become paparazzi pets because of the money they lavish on Los Angeles. So far, more than $500 million.
Eli, over here to the right.
Who says money can't buy you love?
And Eli, and your lovely wife, right here, please.
Behold his footprint on Los Angeles. He's a driving force behind 16 major public institutions. In the center of downtown, a cultural corridor anchored by the magnificent Disney Hall, home of the Los Angeles Philharmonic. Next to it, the home of the Los Angeles Opera, the Museum of Contemporary Art, the High School for the Performing Arts, and the School of Music. In Greater Los Angeles, 3 scientific research centers, a theater, an art center, and another contemporary art museum. He puts his name on almost all of them. You've said that your sense of being a wealthy man actually increased the more you gave money away.
I think it's true. I don't feel I'm here to just maintain a status quo. I'm here to make things better or different.
And you want the world to know about it by putting your name on all the things you do support.
I don't keep it a secret, that's for sure.
Broad took us to Grand Avenue. This is quite a vista, which he plans to transform into a vibrant city center rivaling New York's Museum Mile. Disney Hall, designed by Frank Gehry, almost did not get built. Broad rescued the project by putting up his own money and putting the squeeze on fellow plutocrats.
It's really become the symbol of our city.
And then there's his own museum, the Broad. This is a rendering. It's still a parking lot, but it will eventually hold his $1.6 billion art collection. How much is this going to cost? Something approaching $1 billion?
More.
More?
More.
We were interrupted by an Angelino driving by.
Eli, buy the Dodgers! Buy the Dodgers!
Eli, buy the Dodgers. You could be the George Steinbrenner of Los Angeles.
No. I've got enough on my plate.
Broad runs his philanthropic foundation like a for-profit business, not a charity. Charity, he says, is just writing checks. He practices what he calls venture philanthropy.
We don't give it away, we invest it, and we want a return. Remember, I started work as a CPA, so that gave me fiscal discipline in everything I did in business, and I guess some of it carries over to philanthropy.
Eli Broad says, I want results, and if you're not going to show me results, I'm not going to give you the money, and incidentally, after 1 year, if you don't show me results, I'm going to stop funding you.
New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, no mean philanthropist himself, admires Broad's uncuddly approach and the $32 million he's given to New York schools.
Eli Broad sets the standard. I think it's really being a role model for others. And they look at Eli, and because of him, they get the ideas, I'm going to be innovative and be philanthropic and do some other things. The leverage of Eli Broad is really quite amazing.
Amazing to the extent of almost $500 million he's poured into improving public education. He spends even more on medical research. 8 years ago, he teamed up with Harvard and MIT to create, you guessed it, the Broad Institute in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The Broad is the world's leading genomic medicine institute. All discoveries are free, available to anyone. Let me be rude and ask, how much have you put into this institute?
$600 million total.
Broad grew up in Detroit, the only child of immigrant shopkeepers. At 21, he married Edie Lawson.
We borrowed $25,000 from our parents.
And that $25,000 led ultimately to
A lot of money.
In 1957, Broad and a partner launched a no-frills home building business. He was a millionaire by 27. He bought Sun Life Insurance in 1971 and sold it in 1999 for $18 billion. And that's when he and Edie decided to give most of it away. You're giving 75% of your wealth away.
Maybe more by the time it's over.
Or maybe more. You have 2 children.
Yes.
What about them?
They're well taken care of. They're different than their dad.
Different how?
They don't have, frankly, the ambition to build a great business that I had.
You've been open about admitting that you were not a great father.
Look, when I started, it was 24/7, as they say. And I didn't spend enough time with the kids when they were growing up. I admit that.
Is that something you regret now?
I do to some degree. We all go back and would do things over differently in our lives.
Today, Broad balances his life with his passion for contemporary art, like this Richard Serra sculpture.
Civilizations are not remembered by their business people or bankers or lawyers. They're remembered by the arts.
He's collected over 2,000 works of art. Unlike most collectors, almost all of Broad's art is available for loan to museums. He loaned these pieces to the LA County Museum of Art and threw in a $50 million building to house them. One of his favorite artists is the irrepressible Jeff Koons. And here, a veritable cornucopia of Koonsian genius. All, of course, painted and sculpted by hired craftsmen. Koons is nothing if not worshipful of Eli Broad.
You know, Morley and Eli, I just have to say, standing here, what a fantastic location. I mean, look at the natural light that's coming in on these works. It's just a tremendous gallery.
And the balloon dog? What does it do to you? Do you get some kind of emotional kick?
I do. It makes me smile, makes me feel good. It makes me proud. It especially makes me proud when I see young people and others looking at the work. And it introduces them to art in a way that no other work really does.
And a piece that, quite honestly, mystifies me, Michael Jackson and a chimp, is it?
Michael Jackson and Bubbles. When I made this series, the Banality series,
series of banality?
Of images, I was trying to communicate to people that whatever you respond to, it's perfect.
If you find Koons' art speak incomprehensible, well, just wait.
These are to make references to be in the womb a little bit, before birth and prior to any kind of concept of death.
Do you totally get what he's talking about?
Not to the extent that Jeff does, but I do listen and understand and learn from artists, especially Jeff.
But not all artists are as respectful as Jeff Koons. Take architect Frank Gehry.
Eli's a control freak. I worked on a house for him. I didn't want to do it.
Why didn't you want to do it?
I just told him I didn't like him. He said, "You'll learn to like me."
Broad fired Gehry, then built the house anyway, using Gary's drawings.
After 2 years and 7 different models, I was impatient. I think he wanted to spend another year or 2 designing it. And I said, "Frank, a work of art is never finished, it's only abandoned."
They worked together again 3 years later to build Disney Hall. And once again, Broad fired Gehry. But he had to eat humble pie when the Disney family insisted that he hire Gehry back.
We did it. We built it. We weren't friends.
You made your peace with him at the same time you...
I won't do a project for him, that's true.
Eli's middle name is Strings Attached. Eli Strings Attached Broad.
Christopher Knight, the art critic for the Los Angeles Times, has been Broad watching for years.
He's a first-generation, male, self-made gazillionaire. And people in that category typically believe, and with good evidence, that they know how to make something a success. And that can be a problem.
With science, Broad leaves the details to the experts. But when he dangles his money and his art in front of most major museums in L.A., he sees himself as the expert. And if they don't play, he won't pay.
Well, I'm a perfectionist, and on things I know something about, I do get involved.
We've talked to a number of people who say that you can turn into a bully.
I don't think I'm a bully, but on the other hand, I'm not a potted plant either.
No, I'm sure you're not a potted plant, but these people who say some pretty unkind things about you will not talk publicly. They clearly are scared of you.
I don't know why they're scared of me.
Well, because you're a rich guy and therefore a powerful guy, and you've got a temper.
I've got strong views on things.
But even your good friend Frank Gehry says Eli can be a real pain in the ass.
I can understand why Frank could say that, because I am impatient, and patience has its limits.
Number one, it's his money, and you don't have to take it, so I'm sympathetic with that. Eli is not a micromanager as much as he has ideas on how you can make society better, and he's devoting his own money to doing it. Kind of hard to argue with that he doesn't have the right to do it, and you don't have to play the game if you don't want to.
When you've got one 800-pound gorilla in the room, you're scared to death of the guy. Everybody does want something from Eli, and since he is the biggest game in town, nobody wants to alienate him.
I just appreciate you all so much.
Just watch this crowd at the recent gala for the Los Angeles Museum of Contemporary Art, which Broad bailed out 2 years ago for $30 million. It was a scrum of culture vultures, fashion victims, and art victims, dealers and collectors, a night when skinniness was next only to godliness, when philanthropy and social climbing, self-aggrandizement and greed dissolved into one gigantic air kiss, all under the benevolent eye of that feared and admired dictator, Eli Broad. Beyond the altruistic part of it, ego plays a part in this?
Oh, absolutely.
A desire to be loved?
A desire to be respected. I'm not doing these things to become the most popular person in the city. I want to be the most respected person.
We left him on the roof of his art foundation, this fully contented man, this master of all he surveys. What's this at the very end here? I know what this is.
What is it?
It's Bigfoot.
It is Bigfoot.
And who is the biggest foot in Los Angeles right now?
I don't know. I don't think so.